Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael or Kubera, and today I thought that I'd upload two videos, but I decided just one video after the live stream, not to overwhelm you guys. Today we're discussing about Cardano and counterfeiting, and this one was an interesting title that we read about. Bitcoin block halving has already happened. Lambo's on the moon. Awesome. The next one is in 1458 days. So thank you to everyone who joined me on the live stream. If you didn't see it, check it out in the link in the description below. It was chill. We just talked about Bitcoin. That is it. Bitcoin outlives first website that declared it dead back in 2010. So hopefully there's more of that to come soon. Bitcoin defies naysayers for over a decade. There was plenty of people who said it was dead, worthless, a scam, or even rat poison squared. According to the Bitcoin obituary page, Bitcoin has been proclaimed dead 380 times since it came into existence in 2008. The first of these was on December 15th, 2010, when Bitcoin price was just 23 cents. The Underground Economist published an article titled "Why Bitcoin Can't Be a Currency." Thankfully, the Wayback Machine has an archive of this article because the Underground Economist website is unfortunately no longer with us. Ow. Oh, I'm still alive. Oh, Bitcoin. Yeah. So that's it. Goodbye. Rest in peace. The Underground Economist. Bitcoin's still here and it's doing just fine. It's at 8,700 bucks. So see ya. Cardano. I promised you guys we would discuss about other cryptocurrencies. I used to be interested in this. I was invested back in 2017, 2018, and it might be a project that I might invest into again in the future. But today we're just talking about counterfeiting. So, the lab at the University of Wyoming has been working on an anti-counterfeiting solution based on the Cardano blockchain. Armed with $500,000 worth of ADA from IOHK, the lab is exploring how to create chips that are able to contain what is essentially tokenized proof of ownership of luxury goods ranging from watches to supercars. An anti-counterfeiting solution that utilizes Cardano is in the works. The problem of counterfeiting isn't something that the luxury goods industry is faced with, but it's the industry that suffers the most when the authenticity of its products is put into question. The industry has historically struggled to solve this problem by introducing serial codes, holographic stickers, and invisible ink. These methods, however, haven't stood the test of time and are easy to override. So, the University of Wyoming received $500,000 in February and is set to use the money to develop a blockchain-based anti-counterfeiting solution. According to Charles Hoskinson, the CEO of IOHK, this is a project that's well beyond the scope of 2020 and could take several years to fully implement. Nonetheless, if executed right, its possibilities are endless and it could bring about a full revolution in the luxury goods industry. It will begin with an overview of the current supply chain system in the industry. Every luxury good lives inside a supply chain that ultimately ends in retail, and every stage of that supply chain, including the retail one, poses a threat to the item's authenticity. Despite most luxury goods being fitted with a serial code, the process is done when the item is already well into the supply chain and is notoriously hard to control. The end user often has no way to authenticate whether or not a serial code is actually real, making them essentially worthless. So a solution was designed that will utilize both software and hardware in order to solve the problem. The lab is working on creating a chip that is capable of several cryptographic operations, such as the Intel SGX or the ARM Trust Zone. The basic idea behind this is essentially creating a chip that makes extracting information from it very hard and then using it to store and use private keys. These chips will be equipped with RFC, RFID, or a similar standard and will be extremely cheap to make. So it's going to cost between 1 and 10 cents. A chip like this would be easy to implement into items such as luxury handbags, shoes, watches, etc. So solving the issue of authentication with hardware is Cardano will soon have a multi-asset standard. It will be easy to issue tokens on the platform. So they're going to tokenize authenticity, issuing coins that represent authenticity or ownership of a luxury good. So not only is it good for fighting counterfeiting, which is a horrible problem for stuff like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Hermes, all that, especially in Asia. It's also great if you are a legitimate buyer of this and you lost a receipt. For resale values, that affects it huge. This is coming from an individual who sold tens of thousands of dollars worth of luxury goods that I bought initially. The stuff I had a receipt for, great. The stuff I didn't have a receipt for was, it took years to finally sell everything. This week was actually, last week, because it's now Monday. Last week was the final week where we sold a Louis Vuitton tie and a Versace scarf, and that was like the last of it. The easiest thing to sell was Rolex because that held up in its value and I actually profited off of it. But I had the box, I had the receipt, I had everything. Other stuff, not so much because there was just too many receipts to keep track of. So, take for example a luxury Louis V bag. During the production of the bag, a chip able to hold private keys will be inserted in it. Somewhere in the supply chain, an authenticator will be tasked with examining the bag in order to prove its authenticity. If the bag passes quality tests, the authenticator would then issue a transaction sending one of the authentication tokens on Cardano to the chip. Once the private key has been encumbered with that asset, it can never be removed, as a private key itself can't be moved. And as the private key is locked into the chip forever, so is the authentication token. The chip itself will be passive. It will be able to perform several functions as a protocol of challenge response would be added to it. For example, in order to validate the authenticity of a bag, the authenticator could simply tap or scan the chip with a mobile phone. Pretty easy, right? Which would verify if the chip has a legitimate token on it. So the chip would be able to receive and process the request through NFC or FID communication protocols and generate a signature that returns that query to the authenticator. So the authenticator is then able to look at the Cardano blockchain and verify that the token exists, therefore verifying the authenticity of the bag. These chips will eventually evolve and improve over time. He said that it will be possible to add all sorts of metadata to it, so that in addition to storing the private key for a token, the chips also store the history of the item, where it was made, where it was sold, and ownership list. This is crazy. I love that. It's going to make selling so much easier. And while this doesn't completely abolish the possibility of counterfeiting, it makes it extremely inefficient. A counterfeiter could remove the chip from the authentic item and put it into a counterfeit one. However, this means that only one handbag yields only a single counterfeit one. The one-to-one relation, while still essentially allowing counterfeiting, is a huge improvement from one real handbag being used to make thousands of counterfeits. If chips were made so that they could communicate with each other or introduce several decode chips, this would drastically reduce the already low possibility of counterfeiting. So programmable chips provide endless opportunities. There would be mobile apps used to scan chips and verify the authenticity of a Louis V handbag. Also Gucci, Chanel, Dior, Hermes, luxury watches, jewelry, shoes, and even exotic and luxury cars. So it goes well beyond 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures. While there's still a long way to go before we see a working prototype, Hoskinson already sees their massive potential. He said that making the chips programmable would allow them to add more cryptographic protocols to it and thus increase their functionality. It also introduces a loyalty system for brands and more data, and this is where it gets interesting, maybe away from decentralization. It monetizes the fact that you are a loyal customer to the firm. You might get placed in waiting lists, so it's dependent on how that information would be used. Anyways, an easy implementation process will allow such a solution to scale and easily reach millions of customers, which are the driving force behind the $280 billion luxury industry. So that is Cardano. And how is Cardano doing right now? Cardano is a little bit down. It's number 12, $1.25 billion, and it's valued at 4.8 pennies. Currently, the market cap for everything is approaching $237 billion. The Bitcoin halving was very interesting, and that is that for today. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, subscribe, and share, and we shall see you guys tomorrow. Daily live streams on at least one of my channels, and in the future, we will have daily live streams on both the channels and definitely on this crypto channel. So stay tuned with me for this epic journey.